Shalom, I'm Chaim Ben Pesach from the Jewish Task Force. On this week's program, we're going to discuss how a battle that we're currently waging in Israel could bring us to the point of victory where we could literally bring the Messianic redemption. And no, I'm not going crazy. That's a part of classic traditional Judaism to believe that there will be a Messiah, that the Mashiach will come, and that there'll be a change in the world. That all of that will happen, that God will bring that to the world. That's classic Judaism. We're going to discuss that. And we're going to discuss how we could be on the verge of that now, just as we were on the verge many times in history, but failed in the past. We failed the test. And hopefully we'll win this test. But once again, self-hating traitors are undermining us. And it's a difficult battle. And we're going to explain what I'm talking about. But before we get to that, this program is dedicated to Refuah Shlema, complete recovery for Shlomo ben Sarah, Ruth bat Sarah, Dorit bat Sarah, Ruven ben Shoshana, and Ashadina bat Violet. And to Ilui Neshamot, elevating of the souls for Sharon Mitman, Malka bat Meir, Allegra bat Shlomo, Daniel Neinkin, Victor Chazdai, Pesach Zeb ben Dov, Lunita Adno, Shifra Hoffman, Ruven Hoffman, Barry Hoffman, Harab Mir Kahana, Harab Binyamin Kahana, Tzipora Fegi bat Liba, Yosef ben Meir, Robert Mitman, Dennis Shore, Helen Friedman, Charles Olat, Yair Levine, Rachel D., and David ben Avraham. We Jews do believe that eventually the Mashiach is going to come, that there's going to be a Messiah, and that there's going to be a redemption for the world. We believe that God intends to redeem the world, and that all of life and all generations are part of a process that is moving us in that direction. And eventually it's going to happen. There's no question it's going to happen eventually. But it could have happened a lot earlier. And if anybody doesn't believe in it, you got to be blind, because everything that Judaism teaches us, we've seen so many proofs of it in our own time with our own eyes that you have to be blind not to realize it. Thousands of years ago, the prophets in the Bible tell us that we're going to be exiled from the land to the four corners of the earth. And that was at a time when nobody was exiled to all four corners of the earth. I mean, we were exiled to Egypt or Babylon or one or two countries. We weren't exiled to 150 or 200 countries. But they said the Jews are going to be exiled to four corners of the earth. And it's going to be a very long exile, very long and dark exile. And that many, many years later, Be'acharit hayamim, in the end of days, the Jews will return to their homeland. And they're going to be heavily outnumbered. 10 of ye shall chase 1,000 of them, and 100 of ye shall put 10,000 of them to flight. And their land will be a desolate land that nobody wants to live in, that's impossible to live in. A terrible place. And all of a sudden, when the Jews return, it's going to bloom and blossom like a garden. Just incredible change in the land. And just an incredible change in circumstances will take place. Everything that was predicted thousands of years ago is coming true in our own time. And we're going to discuss some of that. But you really have to be blind not to understand that all the fulfillment of biblical prophecy makes it so clear that Judaism is the truth and that the Bible is the truth. We have returned to the land after 2,000 years of exile. We have created a Jewish state with Jewish sovereignty not against all odds, against impossible odds, hopeless odds. The desert is blooming like a garden. The desolate cities have become habitable again, just like it says in the Bible that would happen. Things that seemed impossible even 150 years ago, even 100 years ago, have now all come true. We win wars in 6 days against enemies that outnumber us 100 to 1. And Israel quadruples in size in just 6 days. Now, in discussing this and understanding this, we have to understand, though, that this is only part of the story. This is just a partial redemption. The full redemption will be when we have the Messianic redemption, when the Messiah comes, and we have all types of changes and a renewal of prophecy. There'll be prophecy again. Right now, we have no prophecy. We have not had prophecy now since the destruction of the first temple. That was the end of prophecy. Anyone who says that they're a Navi, that they're a prophet today, is a liar or a madman. There is no prophecy today. But we're gonna have a renewal of prophecy, just like the prophecy that told us thousands of years ago that all these things that we see today happening before our very eyes would happen. That we're going to have prophets again that are going to be able to tell us those things again. All of those things will happen. And I'm not going to go into all the details just because of time constraints, but I am going to say this. We had many opportunities in history to bring the final redemption. The first opportunity, the first obvious opportunity was when the Jews were freed from Egypt in the time of Paro, in the time of Pharaoh, over 3,000 years ago. And they're in the Sinai desert. And Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses goes up to the mountain to receive the oral and the written law from Hashem, from God, and to bring down the Luchot and to bring down the 10 Commandments. And if he had brought down the 10 Commandments, and if the Jews had obeyed, and if the Jews had done what they were asked to do at the time, the final redemption would have come. That's what Chazal, that's what the Torah sages teach us. That would have been it. There would have been end to death. The angel of death would no longer have power over us. There would have been an end to death. People would live forever, and the world would be a completely different place. It would be paradise on earth. Gan Eden would be paradise on earth. Gan Eden means Garden of Eden, but it's another word for paradise in Hebrew. And it's actually two words, Gan Eden, which means Garden of Eden, but it's a way of saying paradise in Hebrew. And so this could have happened. Then it could have happened, thousands of years ago. But instead of waiting for Moshe Rabbeinu, for Moses to come back, and instead of following what the Torah says, even after they had heard God speaking, because they all became prophets, and they heard God speaking to Moshe Rabbeinu, to Moses, and they had experienced all of these miracles, Eser Makot Mitzrayim, the 10 plagues that hit Egypt, and Kriyat Yam Suf, and the opening of the Red Sea for them to go through, and then the Egyptian army is drowned in the same Red Sea. I mean, miracle after miracle after miracle, so obvious. And after seeing all this, because they calculated that Moses was supposed to come back in 40 days, they miscalculated, by the way. They said, it's 40 days, he hasn't come back, he's not coming back. We don't know what happened to him, he's not coming back. So now we're going to build a golden calf. These will be the gods that brought you out of the land of Egypt, this golden calf. I mean, what an incredible sin, especially in the context of all the miracles they saw. And so that took away the ability of the Jews to bring the final redemption. That was it. They lost that. They lost right then and there. They could have had it then and there, and they lost it. And then another sin while they're in the desert. Then they were wandering in the desert. Another sin. God tells them, okay, you want to send 12 spies, the Hameraglim, you want to send 12 spies, one from each Shevet, one from each tribe, to spy out the Eretz Canaan, the land of Canaan, in order to liberate which was the land of Israel. In order to liberate the land of Israel, you want to send spies to see what it's like, and so on. Okay, go ahead. So they sent spies. And the spies came back, and 10 out of the 12 spies convinced the people, it's hopeless. It's not realistic. It's not realistic. We can't win against them. They're giants. And we're like grasshoppers compared to them. This is the report they brought back to the Jewish people. And the Jews were convinced by them. The Jews did not listen to the two spies, Kalev and Yehoshua, were the two Meraglim, the two spies who said, no, we can do it. We have to believe in Hashem. Look at the God that gave us these incredible miracles. He'll give us miraculous victories again. We just have to believe, and we have to do what God tells us. No, they didn't want to hear that. And so God forced them then to die in the desert after 40 years of wandering, and only their children, only their their children under the age of 20 would eventually enter the land of Israel. Everybody from the age of 20 on would have to die in the desert. Another opportunity lost. And I could go on and on. There were so many times in history when we lost opportunity. After the Spanish Inquisition, the Jews were given the opportunity to go to the land of Israel. The doors of the land of Israel were open for them. They could have gone to Israel. They had to leave Spain or they were going to be burned at the stake. Either they stay in Spain. If they stayed in Spain, they had to agree to convert to Catholicism, which they refused to do, which most of them would not do no matter what. And so they had to flee. They had to leave Spain anyway. They could have gone to the land of Israel because the doors of the land of Israel were open for them. This was a historic opportunity that God was giving them. Instead of going to the land of Israel, they went to Turkey because it's more realistic. It's built up. They have a better economy, better infrastructure. This is whereas the land of Israel was still a desolate place, and they didn't want to. No, Turkey, developed country. They have a stock exchange. We can deal in real estate. This is so. So they said, forget about going to the land of Israel. We're going to go to Turkey. Another opportunity missed. Now, of course, if 700 or 800 years ago we had gone to the land of Israel instead of 75 years ago, if we had the land, if we had gone and settled in the land of Israel and built a Jewish state 700 or 800 years ago, by now, hundreds of years already, we would have had the Messianic era. But they didn't want that. They didn't want that. And just look at recent history. I'm going to speed up now and go to recent history because we could do a show here for 10 hours going through all the terrible, terrible historic opportunities that were missed over and over and over again from a people lacking in faith. Six-Day War, 1967. Morenu v'Rabbeinu Haramir David Kahana Zecher Tzadik v'Kadosh Livracha Hashem Yikom Damo. Our beloved Rabbi Meir Kahana, a blessed memory, said that the Messiah was knocking on the door in the Six-Day War. This was a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. This was a miracle of biblical proportions. Incredible miracle. United States slaps a 130-day embargo and sanctions on Israel. The Soviet Union threatens to intervene on the side of the Arabs. The Arabs outnumber Israel 100 to 1. All the Arab leaders are saying in the UN they're going to push the Jews into the sea. France, which was the last supplier of weapons to Israel, cuts off all the weapons and says, no, now we're supporting the Arab side. Charles de Gaulle, the leader of France, said, no, now we're supporting the Arabs. Completely hopeless situation. And in 6 days, Israel beats the living daylights out of the whole damn Arab Muslim world. In 6 days. And quadruples in size. Israel was 4 times her original size in just 6 days. Liberates the whole Sinai, the whole Golan Heights, Judea, Samaria, Gaza, Jerusalem. 6 days. Destroys all of the Arab air forces. Devastates the Arab armies. Nobody could believe it. And so this was a chance now. Now, if we had gone in and we had gotten the Arabs out of the land of Israel, if we had liberated the land, if we had announced we're going to have sovereignty over the land and decided to create a real Jewish state with a Jewish vision, if we had decided to do that, that would have been it. That would have been it. This was another time, another historic opportunity. But instead of doing that, when in Jerusalem, when the Temple Mount was liberated, where the Holy Temple once was, right away Moshe Dayan, that one-eyed bandit, what an evil animal he was. But anyway, Moshe Dayan, he hands the keys to the Temple Mount. He had the key because they gave him the keys. The Waqf, the Arab Waqf, they were terrified now of the Jews. The Arabs were petrified of the Jews. Oh, yes, here, please. Oh, of course. Here, have the keys. We want you to have them. Of course. You control everything now. That was what happened. They were terrified. Moshe Dayan hands the keys back to the Waqf, to the Arab Muslim Nazi Waqf. The same Arab Muslim Nazi Waqf that had the Arab Mufti who went to spend the last 3 years of World War II with Adolf Hitler in Berlin and tour the concentration camps and say, you Germans know how to take care of the Jews. That was the Waqf. Their leader was the Mufti. And the Waqf, now they're terrified. And so Moshe Dayan, he takes the keys and hands it back to the Waqf and says, no, this is for you. You're going to control the Temple Mount. We don't want control. It's going to be under Muslim control. Our holy temple is going to be under Muslim control to show how generous and how nice we are. We blew it again in the Six-Day War when we had an opportunity. The Yom Kippur War. Israel's attacked on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year, and it was also Shabbat and Yom Kippur that year, 1973, October 6, 1973. And Israel is attacked on the Syrian front in the north and on the Egyptian front in the south. And unbelievable, 80,000 Egyptian soldiers cross the Suez Canal and attack 500 Israeli soldiers who didn't even know they were going to be attacked. The government betrayed them and didn't even tell them. The government knew that this was coming and didn't tell them. 500 Jewish soldiers had to defend against 80,000 Egyptian attacking soldiers who were making a surprise attack. And the Jewish soldiers were completely unprepared. And the reserves weren't called up and the army wasn't even ready, and Israel could have been destroyed in that war. Miraculously, unbelievably, incredibly miraculously, Israel turns the situation around under those circumstances and beats back the Egyptian and Syrian attackers against impossible odds and surrounds the Egyptian invading army and could have destroyed them all, and that would have been then they would have won a victory bigger than the Six-Day War. But Henry Kissinger, Yamach Shmo v'Zichro Shem Reshaim Yirkav, the self-hating Jewish traitor, the Judenrat Capo, Henry Kissinger, who was Richard Nixon's national security advisor at the time. He later became Secretary of State, but at that time he was the national security advisor to Richard Nixon. He pressures Israel to feed the Egyptian army. In fact, he might have been, was he Secretary of State yet or National Security Advisor? You know something? I don't remember if he was, whatever he was, but he was the one that was involved, that was in charge. Whether he was National Security Advisor, Secretary of State, I don't remember during the war if he had yet, eventually he became Secretary of State. I don't remember if he had yet become Secretary of State. But it's not really relevant. Nixon put him in charge. And he told Israel not to destroy the Egyptian army that they had surrounded. Imagine this little Israeli army surrounds the big Egyptian army that attacked them by surprise on Yom Kippur, on the holiest day of the year for the Jewish people, these low-life snakes. And here we have an opportunity to finish them off and to show them what happens when you do that to the Jewish people. Another chance for final redemption, for a victory that would have been bigger than the Six-Day War. Golda Meir and Moshe Dayan and the Israeli government saying, no, we're not going to destroy the Egyptian army. We're going to feed them and we're going to let them go and we're going to surrender everything. We're going to surrender to them and let them go. And that's what they did. Golda Meir, who was so beloved, that's another traitor, by the way, she was so beloved by American Jews. As Rabbi Kahana always said, you know, in ancient days, we had the golden calf. American Jews had the Golda calf. They worshipped her. She was a very ugly calf, by the way. But anyway, they give in. And we lose another. So they turn victory into defeat. Over and over again, turn our victory into a defeat. Over and over again. Always. Never fails with these traitors. Another example in modern times, the Soviet Jewry campaign of the JDL, which your faithful servant here, Chaim Ben Pesach, had the honor of being a major part of. I was the national chairman of the Jewish Defense League during the peak of that campaign to free Soviet Jews. We had 3 million Jews trapped behind the Iron Curtain. Everybody told us, "You're not realistic. You're gonna get the Soviet Union to let the Jews out? What, are you kidding? They're gonna listen to you? Who are you? Who are you? The JDL is gonna fight against the Soviet Union?" Look at what Hashem does. We did fight against them. And we did get them to release hundreds of thousands of Jews, and eventually the whole Soviet Empire collapsed. That's what Hashem does when you do the right thing. We had a chance there again. And a really big chance was when our leader, the beloved Rabbi Kahana, ran for the Knesset. He ran in 1973, December 1973. He almost won, but they stole the election from him. It was very, very close. He almost won. He didn't have people to watch the counting of the votes, and they literally count the vote. I mean, they could do anything they want with the votes if you don't have someone there from your party counting, and he didn't have poll watchers to watch. But anyway, he narrowly lost in 1973, ran for the Knesset. 1977, he ran again. 1981, he ran again. Lost 3 times in a row. The 4th time in 1984, he got elected to the Knesset, to the Israeli parliament. He had just 1 seat out of 120. He started a revolution in Israeli thinking. During the 4 years he was in the Knesset, all the politicians were against him. The whole media was against him. Everybody was against him, except for the people. The people saw that what he was saying made sense. And by the time he was ready to run again in the next election, 1988, the polls showed that he was going to go from 1 seat to 14 seats. From 1 to 14. 14 times as much support. That's quite a jump in the polls. And so they banned him. The traitors banned him to stop him from saving because he would have saved the Jewish people if that had happened. He would have gone on eventually to become prime minister. And then the election after that, he would have been elected prime minister. Polls, by the way, showed that people said, yes, if he gets 14 seats, then more people said they would vote for him. And a majority of Israelis said they would be willing to see him as prime minister, even though that was in the media. And they were, him? Oh, how terrible. He dared to suggest that the Arabs should be encouraged to leave Israel. He just said, let's have a program to encourage them to leave. And we'll give them compensation, but encourage them to leave. We'll find dozens of countries that will accept them as refugees or whatever the circumstance. And dozens of countries would have accepted them. And they said, no, that's Nazism. To offer compensation to Arabs to get out, that's Nazism. But when the Arabs say they're going to push the Jews into the sea and finish Hitler's job and openly promise genocide against the Jewish people, that's not Nazism. They're moderates. They're our peace partners. This is what the traitors tell us, and this is the line of the traitors, okay? This is what they give us. And so they banned him from running for the Knesset. They banned him. That's the only democracy in the Middle East, some democracy. They said all the Arab parties can run. Arab parties openly calling for Israel's destruction. 57 Muslim countries is one little Jewish state, and they want the one little Jewish state destroyed. And they're allowed to run. But Rabbi Kahana was not allowed to run for the Knesset. Supreme Court of Israel made their ruling, and all the parties in Israel said, oh yes, ban him, because they wanted to get all his votes. They didn't want him to get the votes. They wanted to get all the votes. What scoundrels. He would have saved the Jewish people. He would have brought the final redemption for the Jewish people. I can give many other examples, but now I'm going to go to today. We were losing badly in Judea and Samaria. We were on the verge of having an independent Palestinian terrorist state created, even though there's no such thing as Palestine or Palestinians. There has never been a Palestinian people of Palestine, never in history. Never. It's a hoax. The Arabs themselves 50 or 60 years ago said, don't call us Palestinians, we're Arabs. We're part of the great Arab nation of 500 million Arabs. There are no Palestinians, they used to say. And all the leaders of Israel always said there's no such thing as a Palestinian people. Even Golda Meir and Menachem Begin and David Ben-Gurion all said there's no such thing as a Palestinian people. And then all of a sudden, this people is invented as an excuse to destroy Israel, and this crazy, stupid Jews immediately grab it and accept it. Something which they knew was a lie, and they accept it because, well, you have to be practical. Then, the world, what about world opinion? And so we were on the verge of creating a Palestinian terrorist state. Why? Because the Arabs, we had the Oslo agreements. And in the Oslo agreements, Judea and Samaria was divided up. Gaza we gave away when we threw the Jews out of Gush Katif. So Gaza was already in the hands of the Muslim terrorists, Hamas terrorists. Judea and Samaria was what was left. And in Judea and Samaria, there was Section A, Section B, Section C. We surrendered Section A and Section B to the Arabs, which is 40% of Judea and Samaria. That left Section C, which was 60%. That was supposed to remain in Israeli hands. But the Arabs, through illegal building, they built over 80,000 buildings and homes, illegally taking over one piece of land after another, just illegally coming in and taking over, and no one stopped them. They took over 1/3 of Section C, which even under the Oslo Accords was supposed to be under Israeli control. They took over 1/3 of Section C. They were on their way to taking over 95% of Judea and Samaria, and then there would have been a Palestinian state, like it or not. And Israel would have been in borders that are 6 to 9 miles wide. It's complete suicide. And nobody stopped them. Nobody did it. Not the Yesha Council, not the so-called right wing, not Ben-Gvir or Smotrich or Netanyahu or the Likud. None of them did anything to stop any of this. None of them did anything to stop it. To this day, they don't destroy all the illegal Arab-built homes that are there. But then someone stepped up to save the Jewish people. A group called Na'arei HaGevaot, the Hilltop Youth. Young Jews. I don't know what a miracle. This is such a miracle. I don't know where these Jews came from, because in the educational system, they teach Jews to be like Woody Allen, not to be like King David, not to be warriors like King David and Abraham Avinu, Abraham our father, and all who are all warriors. The Jews of the Bible are all warriors, are all heroes, are all like lions. But the Jewish education system in Israel and all the leftists and all the traitors teach them to be like Woody Allen or Schmuck Schumer. That's what they want the Jews to be like. And I don't know where they came from. All of a sudden, thousands of these young, magnificent Jewish heroes come out of nowhere and say, we're giving up our studies. We're leaving the yeshivas, giving up our studies, or if they had jobs, leaving the jobs, leaving our homes, leaving everything we have, going to move to Judea and Samaria and live on a hilltop. We're losing everything we have, but we're going to live on a hilltop to protect our people in our country, with our families. And they did it, and they seized dozens of hilltops. And they stopped the Arab takeover of Judea and Samaria. They literally stopped it. They blocked them off and stopped them. Dead in their tracks. The Arabs couldn't build anymore because the Hilltop youth were there. They said, we're here. You're not going to build over us. We're here. You're not going anywhere. And they didn't ask for permission. In fact, the Israeli army and the Israeli police constantly destroy their homes and destroy their communities, constantly working for the other side. The Jewish leaders of Israel are all like the guy who catches the football and runs and runs and runs and scores a touchdown for the other team. That's the Jewish leaders of Israel, always. And these heroic hilltop youth, though, without permission, without their homes destroyed repeatedly. I've mentioned one hilltop, 37 times in 1 year, their hilltop was destroyed, and they came back and rebuilt it 37 times. Can you imagine to lose your possessions, lose everything, be thrown out with your family, with your kids, and come back 37 times and rebuild 37 times? I mean, where do you get heroism like this? How can you compare them to any other Jews? These are the greatest of our generation. I challenge you to find people like this anywhere in the world today, idealism like this. And these are brilliant people, very well educated, smart Jewish with Jewish brains, very smart. And they're tending to sheep and just so that they can control the land, so that the Arabs can't take over. They blocked the Arabs. They cut off and prevented Arab territorial continuity in Judea and Samaria, and stopped the Arab expansion that was going to take over all of Judea and Samaria, stopped them in their tracks, and now they're pushing the Arabs back. Arabs are leaving and abandoning villages, and tens of thousands of them are leaving. Oh, that's terrible. We see stories in the Israeli media. Oh, how awful. Oh, the poor Arabs are leaving. Oh, no. Oh, that's just awful. The Arabs who say, Itbach al Yahud, slaughter the Jew, they're leaving. Oh, that's very, very sad. The Arabs who were dancing and celebrating on October 7th when the Jewish babies were burned alive in front of their parents, and Jewish women were raped, and Jews and Arabs were cutting parts of people's bodies and organs out of their bodies and waving them around and dancing around with it, and taking Jewish women and stripping them naked and parading them around the streets of Gaza after raping them and murdering them, and then raping them and murdering them after that. And the Arabs are all, not one major Arab leader has truly condemned that. Not one. Not in Israel, not anywhere in the world. Not one major Arab leader or Muslim leader has truly condemned that. Not one. Not one mufti or imam, not ayatollah, not one of them. Not a major one anywhere in the world has and I'm not, and when I say condemn, not saying we're against all violence on both sides, but of course we have to end the occupation. That's not condemning. I'm talking about truly saying what this was. Not one. And now, so the Hilltop youth are pushing the Arabs back, in fact. They're winning. We're winning under the Hilltop youth, despite all the disadvantages and despite the fact that the Israeli army comes and destroys their homes and the Israeli police. We're still winning because of them. They're so brave and so noble and so determined. We're winning. Because of them, we're winning. And we have a chance to win an incredible victory that could eventually lead to Israel liberating the lands, liberating all of the land of Israel, and leading us toward the final redemption. We have that chance. It's within our grasp. And so what happens? Right away, the self-hating traitors come in. We can't allow that. We can't allow the Jews to win. The Jews would actually win? Oh, that we can't have. We have to always be losers. We always have to lie down and die. That's what they want. They want us to lie down and die before the Muslim terrorists and before the anti-Semites of the world and before the Mamdamis of the world and the Arafats of the world and the Iran and Saudi Arabia and Egypt and all these other vicious countries and the European Union and everybody who hates us and the UN. We have to lie down and die. That's what they say. It's the only realistic thing to do. The Hilltop youth are on the verge of giving us this victory and showing that they are the idealists are the true realists here. The people who say you have to be realistic are the most unrealistic people on the face of the earth. The worst. And who supports the Hilltop youth? I mean, this seems like, wow, what a story this is. This is, every Jew should say, wow, I'm going to devote myself to doing everything I can to help these magnificent heroes. And every righteous Gentile should be saying the same thing. The righteous Gentiles also should be inspired by this story, because the Jews, these are Jews that are acting like what the Bible says the Jews are supposed to be. The Bible says the Jews are supposed to be a light unto the nations and a holy nation, a nation of priests. The Hilltop youth are all of those things. So the Jews and righteous Gentiles should be saying, wow, I'll do anything for these people. J.T.F. is the only organization outside of Israel that supports them financially, that gives them money. The only organization. We give our whole budget to them. And I work day and night for them. And what I do is not 1/10 of 1% of what should be done. And in Israel, they have their own fundraising, but it's, a lot of it is from idealistic young Jews and Jewish idealists that give. And in Israel, they have good people that are giving. In Israel, they do. But still, they're up against an establishment here, that, including those who call themselves right-wingers, so-called right-wingers, who are just as phony as the left-wingers. Bezalel Smotrich, the treasury minister, he's the one who ordered the latest attacks on Jewish settlements. Every day, the day that I'm doing this broadcast with you, they destroyed another Hilltop community. The day before, it was announced on Channel 12 News, which is the biggest television station in Israel. It was announced that Netanyahu has ordered the destruction of 14 of the hilltop of the most strategic and important hilltops, and that he wants the arrest of dozens of hilltop leaders, and he's calling it Jewish terrorism. What terrorism? What terrorism? They just want to settle in their land, and yes, they defend themselves if they're attacked. They do not go out on their own and say, let's just attack Arabs because we just feel like it, which is what the Arabs do to Jews. That the Arabs do to Jews every day. They defend themselves when they're attacked. But again, you're not allowed to defend yourself. You got to lie down and die. When the Nazis come to kill you, you got to get in the cattle car and follow instructions and do what Rudolf Kastner, the Judenrat leader in Hungary, tells you to do. And you got to be willing to die when they say push. You go into the gas chambers, you go into the ovens, you do what they tell you to do. You got to be respectable. As Rabbi Kahana once said, we have to bury respectability before respectability buries us. The Hilltop youth, they are a light unto the nations. And we have a chance. If they win, there won't be a Palestinian terrorist state, and the land of Israel will remain in Jewish hands. If they lose, God forbid, there will be a Palestinian state. And there'll be terrible, terrible tragedy for the Jews and for the whole world. Here's how you support the heroic Hilltop youth. You can go to our Hebrew main page, hayamin.org. And on hayamin.org is in Hebrew, except we have a big donate button in English on top. So you can go to the donate button in English, click on the donate button in English. And if you're Israeli, by the way, I always say that, but if you're Israeli, we do have a donate button also in Hebrew. Gam yesh efsharut litrom lenarei hagevot hagiborim gam beivrit bishkalim im atem rotzim. What I just said is you can also donate in Hebrew in shekels if you want. I just said in Hebrew for our Hebrew viewers. The donate button, you'd click on the donate button, and in a couple of minutes with your credit card, you can easily and conveniently donate. Recurring monthly donations or one-time donations. Is there anything more worthwhile than this? Is there anything better that you could do with your life than this? I mean, you have to help your family, and you have to help, you should help your family and your loved ones, of course, but this is the cause. If you want to make this a better world, this is the cause. If you don't want to do it online, if you want to do it through the regular mail, checks and money orders made out to J.T.F. and sent to J.T.F. P.O. Box 650327, Fresh Meadows, New York 11365, because 100% of J.T.F.'s budget goes to the heroic Hilltop youth. And yes, you should leave J.T.F. in your will. A generous portion of your will should be left to J.T.F. to leave this a better world when you do leave this world. And if you can have a meeting, if you can have a Zoom meeting or a cocktail party in your home, or a parlor meeting with wealthy people of means, to have a fundraiser for the Hilltop youth, that would also be wonderful. If you have the ability to do that and you want to do that. I know that there are things we say on this program that are controversial, but you know, if something's not controversial, it's not important. The really important stuff is controversial. And there's nothing more important than fulfilling our destiny in this world, because every single human being, Jew and righteous Gentile, has a higher calling. Every one of us was put in this world for a purpose beyond just enjoying ourselves and making the best of everything for ourselves. We have a much higher purpose than that. You can answer that call by helping the heroic Hilltop youth. For J.T.F. until next week, this is Chaim ben Pesach. Shalom.